third to June. Yes, Richard.
Thank you, people. Thank you. It's certainly nice to be back. I think 4.5 years ago, I was in the old building delivering a presentation on a recipe for community garden success. So I'm very happy to come back. Adrian hounded me relentlessly, but very positively, to ask whether I would come back. She was on to me even late last year. So I thought, well, maybe I've got some interesting things to tell, some interesting stories. And of course, the focus with this presentation tonight is around the benefits of community garden, which are vast, extensive, and of course a focus on the people who make it happen. So that's in essence what it is, the benefits and the people. Okay, so summary. I'm going to put it to you guys, and you can do a hand support or not. Not necessarily saying one's greater than the other. In terms of benefits, working out in the garden, do you sense that is a pretty important benefit? Yeah. We've only got a few hands, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay. What about the psychological and spiritual well-being? Hands up as many times as you like. Bringing people together. Surprisingly, for some, this aspect of socialisation is the key reason why people are involved with community gardening. It's not the growing of the food. It's not the psychological and spiritual well-being, not all those other benefits that I talked about. It's about people coming together, being together. There's an essential need that we all have of being together, of supporting each other, and bringing people together. As in some of the surveys that we have done, including the Aotearoa New Zealand-wide survey, that one comes out tops. What about the consumption of organic food? Yeah. Is that important? Is that a big benefit? Yeah. Applying a cultural approach? Yeah. To some extent, yes. Food security and micro-enterprise, so actually generating some income out of what you're doing. And most of this is an environmental one, of course, seeking a balance with Mother Nature. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. So, just one consideration, I'm now part of what we call the Diabetes Foundation Aotearoa. We were part of Diabetes Trust. We changed our name about 18 months ago to Diabetes Foundation Aotearoa. Pretty much do the same sort of things. I have a garden team, facilitators, we work across Auckland. We also have dietitians within the team. We have exercise specialists, we have diabetes health nurses and doctors. So we have the strong clinical side, and we have Cook and Kiwi experts as well. And in many cases we can actually work together on a lot of projects. So I can engage the Cook and Kiwi people. We can do some work in the garden, the community garden. I think we can take that product and the garden plate type of approach and actually have that cooked and prepared and eaten. So this is a fact. Gardening is the second most popular recreational activity in New Zealand, as indicated by the Active New Zealand survey of 2017.
What's the first?
The big pumpkin there is a French pumpkin that I produced in my community garden at Royal Oak last year. I think it's called, my French is not good, I failed French terribly at school. I think it's I can't recall it now, it's got a big long French name. Actually, Ellen Schindler, who some of you would know well, she provided us with the seed last year, and of course we were going to have a big pumpkin competition, but that didn't happen because of COVID. Okay, next, thanks. So there we go, Garden Health is a project sitting within the Diabetes Foundation Aotearoa. We have funding ongoing for the last 12.5 years from the Ministry of Health, and we also have funding from Auckland Council. So just looking at just a bit of a breakdown, bear in mind that some of these aspects of the benefits are actually moulded together. They're not necessarily cultural or economic or health. I just decided, well, I'll do my best to try and place them. So in terms of culture, that's an important aspect, applying a cultural approach to growing food. You know, what a Maori group, or how they will grow corn, differs from an African group in terms of how they grow corn. So we're really keen to celebrate the ethnic diversity of foods that are in Auckland. And of course, as you know, we have about 160 or 170 different ethnic groups residing in Auckland. So we're one of the most diverse populations, city populations in the world. Being a locavore, some of you may have come across this word. Locavore means growing local for local consumption. I think that's a key consideration. Sourcing and saving organic, heritage, heirloom and open pollinated local source seed and plant material is a big consideration. Nurturing Maori cultivation practices, so Marakai approach is evident in some of our linked gardens. Not forgetting the old ways of doing things as well. So learning from the old ways of growing, being receptive to new technologies and devices. And talking of devices, some people who are growing, enterprise, micro-enterprise sort of within community settings, they think that they identify their laptop and their phone as the most important component of what they're doing. So devices are important as well as the old ways of growing. So education, it's a place to learn lifestyle skills that can have lifetime application. It allows nature to be your guide by living and working within nature rather than against. So I think as people on this planet, we have for centuries worked against nature. We've endeavoured perhaps over more recent times to work with nature, but I really feel that we have an obligation now to try and work within nature, and that's quite a big aspirational leap for a lot of people, but I think it's a valuable one to consider and trying to put into practice. So we're also looking to craft learning opportunities and tools to train people to grow local food for local people. Local is best. There's no sense in actually us importing stuff from California. And for that matter, why are we bringing a product all the way from the Kapiti Coast and Hawke's Bay when we can grow most of the food here? Yes, Swedes don't grow in Auckland. We may have to bring them from Central North Island or Southland, but most of the food we need here can grow here and grow seasonally. We also want to ensure children appreciate the connection with the growing world, with Papatunuku, through experiential learning. Children are fantastic. They just soak it up, they absorb it like sponges, and I was quite stunned by the receptiveness of children and their ability to take up new ideas. The next thing. So we're looking at the economic benefits, a place to enhance employment and business prospects. We have a few gardens now that are doing that, and some of the pictures I'll show you later on will focus on that, on those people that are doing that. We're looking to address the roots of poverty and grow food security. You know, we have some populations, particularly in pockets all over Auckland, not just in South Auckland, that have been struggling for a long time, and they're struggling even more so since COVID. And they're really on the breadline. You know, children are going to school with no shoes, no jumpers, no lunch, no nothing, and you know, kids can't learn unless they've got full tummies. This is an interesting statement. We're looking to view community gardens as food insurance in the epicentre of a food desert. I think, you know, community gardens are increasingly hubs for growing food locally, and we should, the powers that be, whether it be local government, sponsors, businesses, and at national level should be recognising that that is food insurance, particularly where we have disasters, where we have calamities. Developing regional and national community-based food policy and action. One thing I've been doing since COVID in March last year is we've actually initiated a New Zealand-wide alliance of community gardens. They did a survey which some of you people may have actually completed last year, and that will be released out of Canterbury University probably later this month. There'll be probably a bit of publicity about that as well. But it was quite revealing. It was over, I think, nearly 100 gardens, community gardens around New Zealand that actually responded, and that's all been collated by 2 students at the University of Canterbury, and it will be released for public access soon. As I've already mentioned, we're looking to grow and enjoy local seasonal crops rather than imported food, and you know, we have some gardens that are now looking to explore micro-enterprise, or maybe call it social enterprise garden models. And under COVID-19 guidelines, gardens need to be regarded as essential food supplies, but in many cases they're not. So the environment, so the benefits in terms of environment, we're conserving resources by shortening the commodity chain. We're seeking to balance with Mother Nature and resources. We're filtering rainfall and reducing flooding by having cover crops and mulches on the ground and the like. We're contributing to healthy soil through higher carbon and water content. That's of course primarily through composting and things like sheet mulching, of course. And of course, I firmly believe this is something that has sort of nurtured my progress over the years. Letting nature be your teacher through observation and the like. Nature is a very powerful teacher. We're looking to reduce the local and regional carbon footprint through compost carbon sinks, and we're looking to grow a diverse range of plants for birds, insects and animals, and of course not forgetting all the microorganisms. Next thing. Health really drives what we do primarily within Gardens for Health, with our funding from the Ministry of Health. So we say, it's my catchphrase here, looking to work out in the gym rather than work out in the garden rather than work out in the gym. We want to see access to fresh, organic and nutritionally rich food for all, okay? And we want to help to avoid and ease the burden of lifestyle diseases such as diabetes. Some of you will have been tuned in with TV and radio announcements on national radio this morning. There was a big focus,
Sugar tax.
not only the sugar tax, but what do you call it? I'm thinking of the company organisation. What do you call it? Not PDL.
You mean the groceries?
Price Waterhouse Cooper.
Oh.
Price Waterhouse Cooper have just generated a document which covers the issues around diabetes and how they're projecting that there will be a 70 to 90% increase in diabetes type 2 within the next few decades. This is epidemic level right now. We're having, for instance, in South Auckland, over 40,000 cases of diabetes type 2 right now. And what's even more frightening is that young children as young as 10 and 15 years of age now have diabetes type 2, which as a lifestyle disease is preventable. And that draws me to this whole sugar tax thing as well. It's a big concern. The government don't want to delling on it, they're not doing anything. It comes up every 4 or 5 months. Diabetes issues, sugar, the sugar content, the sugar issue, and you know, there's a bit of publicity and it all just dissipates and goes away and nothing's done.
The cheap sugary drinks.
Yeah, sugary drinks. So we're looking to grow local food for local families. That's one of our key actions in community settings. Gardens are plate application for food produced, and a source of food for food banks and families in dire need. So some of our gardens are actually doing 3 things. They're growing food for the people that they support, and the people that are growing the food get to take that food back to their families. We also have community gardens that also are supplying some food on a regular basis to food banks, and also some groups are actually selling at local markets, such as the Sanctuary Mai Whenua Garden at UNICEF is selling product at the Greyhound Market on a Sunday. And we're looking to also promote vegetarian lifestyles for well-being, and it's actually better for the planet as well if we reduce our reliance on the meat production. Psychological and spiritual aspects, we have a lot of church or faith groups that have community gardens, particularly in South Auckland, among the Samoan and Tongan population. So gardens offer therapeutic value, and a neutral environment for greater wellness. We work with quite a few mental health providers. These mental health providers I see when I'm working with them. We're working with one on Friday over the North Shore, and I see incredible changes in their disposition, in their outlook, and just the way they're feeling about themselves, because they're connecting with the land. They've got their hands in the soil, getting their hands dirty, it's tactile, you know, it's the sensory experience. All that's really important for our mental well-being. These few aspects here drawn out of the New Zealand Mental Health Foundation key action. So we're looking to give you a time, words and presence. To be active and move your mood is critical. To focus on learning and surprise yourself. To take notice and savour the moment. And most important, actually, let's enjoy what we're doing, you know. Have some fun as well, because if it's not going to be fun, why would we want to be doing it? We can also meditate in nature, and it's a place for inspiration and reflection. So meditation and inspiration and reflection are linked together. And this is the other one that I mentioned a little back further, making the feel-good connection with Mycobacterium. It's actually pronounced M-but-K. That's one of the beneficial bacteria. So we now, for the last couple of decades, we've had children who have not been allowed to touch and connect with the soil. Probably a lot of us in the room still do that. We were connecting with the soil, getting soil on our hands, soil in the pores of our skin, soil going into our mouths because we're eating the soil. And some of that stuff is actually good for us because we have beneficial bacteria which actually improve our mood. So, you know, it's really important to make those connections.